Module 3. Layers. Okay, so we're in the Photoshop workspace. And this is what you'll see whenever you create or open a document. Because start from the bottom right, which is right over here. And remember when we said that Photoshop is made of layers, that's just how it works. So every little detail you add, it is created in a new layer. Right now we have our background here. At that in the previous lesson we chose it to be whites, so I'm going to unlock that so I can work with it. If it's locked, I cannot add anything onto. You can see that I could not use a brush to because the layer is locked, and the reason we would lock it is because we don't want it to be moving around when you're working on other layers, and will make more sense in the upcoming lessons, once you see it in action. So I'm going to unlock this right now, so we can start working on it. Now that it's all locked, I can draw things on it and work with it. So, now I have one there, right? So I'm going to create, let's try to draw a face. Okay, and now let's say I want to add eyelashes for this face. Going to zoom in. If I make eyelashes and cut it, I messed it up, right? Now I'm going to use the eraser tool, and just erase the eyeshadow. Sorry, the eyelashes. When you choose a hard round, it's going to be hard to do that, because I'm also affecting the background color, and I will delete my eye as well. So I'm not really able to only do the eyelashes. Then I would have to go back in with a wide brush, color that area again. And it would just take forever. So, let me hit Ctrl Z to undo what I'm doing. So if this became longer, and I want to delete that, I would also delete the background, and again I would have to paint his back white, and it would just take a lot of time. Limit Ctrl Z to undo that. And also the face. So what we can do to avoid that constant struggle of deleting, erasing, and then painting it back, is to create separate layers. So if I'm going to draw a face, with a white background, and details such as eyelashes I would have to create separate layers, to make things easier for me. All that means is that the first layer here is my background. I want my background to, let's say, I want it to be like a pink color. Let's make like a light pink. Okay. This is my background color. Now I want to draw its face on it. I will create a new background. These teases layer 0. Layer 1 can also name this layer by double-clicking on the name. The name is background. I'm going to name layer 1 face. So now I'm going to draw faces. Gonna go to my brush tool, choose maybe black. And I'm going to create just some rough shapes to make a face, and there we are. And now if I made a mistake, and I want to delete it, I'm not affecting the background. I'm only working with the face layer. And then I can go back and drive better, somewhat better. And now, this is a separate layer. I can even move this around, if I want it to be in the center. If I want it to be in a corner, and things are just a lot easier for me. Now if I want to draw eyelashes for this face, I would create a new layer. Call it eyelashes. Now if I can get my brush tool, draw my eyelashes. Well, let's see, I draw them too big, it looks like a Y. I want to delete my eyelashes. I'm only doing my eyelashes, and not high. Then I would go back in with the smaller brush size, and draw my eyelashes. Really accurate size, okay. So there's my eyelashes. And again, if it's not placed correctly, I will be able to move it. I want to delete the bottoms. Let's say, I'll only be deleting the eyelashes. I'm moving this back. Now the thing about the luck thing that we mentioned. Let's see, I'm trying to move the eyelashes, but I'm always ending up moving this by accident because I guess blended in here. I'm going to draw create a new layer, that's add the line here as well. So one layer is getting mixed in like this. and it's hard to tell which layer is which parts. And I want to move the eyelashes, but I end up moving this, for example, and I don't want this player to move, so I'm going to put it back in here. Well, I don't want to keep accidentally selecting the space. I'm not. In order to avoid that, I can lock my layers. You see, I've been messed up the whole structure. Going to keep hitting Ctrl C. Okay, I'm going to lock my goal, my face later. Hit the lock button, and the same thing for layer 1. Let's just call it lines. I'm going to let this too. Now, even if by accident I selected this, I cannot move. So again, this saves me a lot of time, and I'm not accidentally selecting random things. So, this is how the layer system works. Another thing is the positioning and the order of the layers. Let me unlock these. What that means is just like how you would have books, and if you put the blue book on top of the red book, and you looked at it from above, the blue color is what you're going to see first. If you move the blue color, you're going to see the red color. Is the same logic here. So, on top of my eyelashes, let's draw a circle to go with this red. Fight drought this, create a new layer, go for like a blue, and a draw this. Just be more accurate, that's okay. Close enough. I'm seeing the blue color first, because it is placed well. I didn't draw another layer. So that's just how the logic works. It's really simple now. Let me suck my top layer, and hold shift and select my bottom layer, not my background. I'm selecting all of them, and I'm going to do with them, because I no longer need to. To do that, you can either select all of them, or the layers that you want, and hit backspace on your keyboard. For you kids, hit this trash can options. It's going to ask you delete selected layers. Yes, and they're all gone except the layer that we did not select. So that's how you do with layers. Another thing is that you can create new layers like we talked about. The square with a plus, and it creates new layers. Against him, just making empty layers. So you can see they're all transparent as there's nothing in them. But if I draw things, you can see that there's a pink line on this one, this purple line on this one, and now they're not really empty anymore. Another thing that you could do is, if I wanted copies of one layer, like I want multiple paying clients, I will select that layer, hit Ctrl C, and I've copied that layer. Can see layer 5 copy. And if I move this way, you can see the ads that it's two identical shapes because we copy layer 5. That's how just to copy a layer. Another thing that you can do if you want to make things more tidy, and you want to group things, you want to keep things organized. I'm going to group two layers together. So I'm going to go on the first layer that I want. Both control and select my second layer, or if I have more than a bunch of players, Up if I want to group everything, so like the top layer all the way down, hold shift. And so like the bottom layer, this way I'm selecting all of my layers. And yeah. But I'm just going to select these 2 layers, add next to our square, create a new layer. I found this folder icon. And what that means is that is going to group the selected layers. So let's click on that. And now we have group 1. Open the group, we have both our layers. But now, they're within one group, so if I turn off this eyeball and this eye will just indicates the visibility of that. And layer, turn it off, they're both turning off. Turn it back on, I'm going to open a group. I'm only going to turn off one of them, I can see that it's only one at a time. Turn off the group, both of them will disappear. So that's what groups meaning, also named a group. Let's call it pink lines, there we are. And now I have a group called inclines. Another thing that you can do is, let me turn this off, this one too. If I go to layer 3, would say let's choose a different color. I'm going to create like a blue line, and a layer for I'm going to do select a different color. And just like started from here. I just take another shape. Now, I want these 2 to be together. I don't want them to be a separate thing. I don't want to be a group. I can merge the 2 layers together. What that means is that I'm going to select one of the layers, hold Ctrl, get the other one, right click, merge layers. Another one later, so they're no longer separate, there are one there, and I can call it blue and yellow. That's one single layer. Just like that. That's how you merge shapes. Another thing is that if you wanted to, let's like bring this purple on top. I actually took in another group. If I want to add a layer to another group, you'll just click on the layer and bring it onto my group. And when you first place in the group is going to go on the top layers, then you can just adjust it like you would normally do. Let's just keep it that way. Now let's say this right here is my artwork and I want all of them to be merged into one singular layer. So that means we have to merge everything together. First of all, you can try this method of grouping all those layers, then right-clicking and merge group. That way we have one layer consisting of all of those previously made layers. And if you want everything to be merged, I'm going to turn this off because I want the background to be separate. Let me also draw something in there, one, just so everything is filled to occur at random background color. When you turn off the background color, then I'm going to hold Ctrl, select all of them. Right click, and we have this option to merge visible. Now this will only emerge just things that are visible. She remembered we turned off our backgrounds layer because we don't want it to be merged. And now it's not visible, so when you right click and hit merge visible, it's going to merge everything except for our invisible background layer. Turn this back on, we have two layers. And they're both separate, since was my background, and this was my colorful layer. Let's bring them back. So that's just how the layers work. And the other thing you can do is work with how visible those layers are, and that's by working with the opacity. And to fill as well, right now, we can see that it's 100%. I bring it down, it's turning west, which was visible, and is fading away. I ring into 0. There's nothing there. And fill also works with that as it determines how much of those colors are feeling that later, and if you bring it to 0, nothing is there. This would be really helpful if you're let me create a layer below this. From trying to draw something below this, and I can't really see what's going on, I can lower do opacity to where I can see the layer before it, so I'm going to grab my brush again. Choose let's use a new color. Let's go for it is right. and I want to, let's say, traced the outside of this. Because the past is low, I can see where I'm painting, but if the opacity of fee-paying client's layer was full, then I can't quite see what I'm doing. So bring it lower, and I'm going to use a D edges to trace my shape. My really random shape. Okay. I accidentally drew on the actual pink ones. There, let's go back to square one. And then just true race our random shape. Okay. And then now I have a separate layer that has traced our main shape. We just Control Z. Okay. In your past city backup, we have different locks, you can see. I added this love. What this means is that I can still drive, but I'm only trying with being that layer. But if I turn that off, I'm getting out of flats. Section me undo that. Okay. So without the lock, from want to draw a line, it's going to go outside, but if I lock it using this lock, it's only going to be inside the shape. This is really helpful if you're trying something. I just want a colored issue. For example, you would use this lock to only color inside the selection. Let's all look that. And do that. Okay, now notice D colors between these two locks. The first lock, it's only the offline, and that was the lock we talked about, where you can only color the inside. You can move the shape by, you cannot draw outside of the selection. No difference with the other lock is that with this lock, return this layer off, you cannot draw on it, and you cannot move it, so it's like a fully of control layer. You cannot do anything to it unless you unlock it. Let's bring this back on. Another lock, there we have the me. And turn these two off. Turned his back on a draw something else. The struggle heart. Okay, let's come down. Yep, this brush lock. And when you select this, when you use the brush lock, that means you can do anything except for drawing on top of it. So that means you can move it. Right, but you cannot draw on it. You can see that tells us because it's locked, cannot draw on it. And we can't do anything to it. But we can move it. That's us something in between the other locks. Then we have another lock, me, and turn that off, is the move locks. So now I cannot move this layer, the heart layer. I'm ending up moving the other one. Let me turn this off. But I can still draw on it, but it will be outside of the layer. So I cannot move this layer. As you can see it, but I can make adjustments on it. I can raise it, but unlike this layer can be drawn outside of the line it's on, do that. Now another cool thing is, let me turn all of our messy layers back on, is that you can choose a combination of these locks for each layer. Second, use this lock and this lock for this one layer, and this is really helpful if you wanted to do multiple things for one player, and overall locks are pretty helpful. And this is just how the layers work in Photoshop. Again, layers is probably the most important thing in Photoshop, and once you understand how they work and how they function, so I hope you guys learned how to use layers, how to use these locks, the opacity, and all that, and that it was helpful for you. I'll see you guys in the next lesson, where we'll go in the other parts of the Photoshop workspace. I'll see you guys then. Let's go to the next model.